Welcome in, everybody, to Fantasy Pros. This is the Fantasy Football Podcast. It is me, Joey P, Joe Pia, and today we have got a fun show for you, boys and girls. We've got a half-point PPR live mock draft. It is going to be lit, as people used to say. They don't say that anymore. It used to be cool. Derek Brown used to be cool, too. He's here. And, of course, Andrew Erickson also here joining us. We have a fantastic guest from the film room himself. Great YouTube channel. If you haven't already subscribed, go run, find Brett Kollmann over on YouTube. Again, it's spelled Kollmann. So there's no way probably you would spell it correctly in your head. Brett, is that one of the advantages? It's harder to find you sometimes. Like you can kind of slip through the cracks a little bit in case you're trying not to be found when you go out in nightclubs and things like that.
It is the most German possible spelling of Coleman. I'll give you that. I think that's why I do so well internationally. About 30% of my audience comes from Europe. And I think it's because all the Germans are like, oh my God, he's one of us.
Yeah, we have to draft. Yes, very much. Derek Brown, it's great to see you. Andrew Erickson's coming in pretty soon to New York. Both the guys are going to hang out with me. We're going to be doing it up in New York City for a live draft ourselves. So this is like a little tune-up here for all of us. And, you know, when we're doing these drafts, we're also love having some of our listeners joining us for this. And we've got 8 of them for this draft today. If you want to be like the cool kids and join us for events like this, go join our Discord, fantasypros.com/chat. It's free to join. And then premium subscribers get access to stages and events like this where we pick and choose some fun people to join us. And we don't know how they're going to draft. This is the fun part about this. It's always a great challenge to try to get in there and figure out like where this person's going to do this and that. But the thing is, I know all of you out there, you guys are all typically in the same drafts every single year and you're the same people and you know kind of the tendencies of people. And I don't think you realize this, but Fantasy Pros last year created a tool for this, which is spectacular. I wish we had this. I know how Derek Brown and Andrew Erickson are going to draft because I work with them. I talk to them every single day. But if you want to see in your draft who likes to favor early quarterbacks, who wants to go with the zero running back all the time, Draft Intel is one of those tools that's absolutely spectacular that we have, and it's free at Fantasy Pros when you sync your leagues together over on our My Playbook feature. And when you have that, and then your premium, you can even draft against the robots. So basically, it's like prepping for your league. So people say, mock draft software, it's only so good. It's not going to help me in my league. No. Fantasy Pros can help you dominate your league and your friends and family. And that's really what this is all about at the end of the day. And I want to thank all the people who are joining us today. We've got Chris in the draft. DVR is back again. Nevada Lightning. We've got Lem Murphy. We got Moody M93. We've got The Error. We got Mythic Curry, which is the best kind of curry. Jude is with us. And, of course, our esteemed guest, Brett Kollmann, joins us as well. So before we get after it, just to set it up for everybody, it's a 12-team half-point PPR. We changed it up a little bit today. We're going to be doing 2 wide receivers, 2 running backs, 2 flex. Sometimes we do the 3 wide receivers. I decided to shake things up a little bit, and that's a big part of today's strategy. Now, Andrew Erickson, when you're looking at the board in a half PPR, what changes for you in terms of style and approach?
Well, I think that it being half PPR, running backs stand a bigger chance to score points in this new world we live in where we only want to draft wide receivers. Running backs do hold more weight in half PPR versus full PPR, and the fact that you only have to start 2 wide receivers. So I could start up to now 4 running backs as opposed to in situations where you can start up to 4 wide receivers with the traditional 3 wide receiver, 2 running back set. So we've evened the playing field here, Joe, which I very much appreciate.
Well, don't appreciate it too much because next time I'll change it up again on you and you won't know what's happening. Derek Brown, to that same point, though, sometimes in these formats with the half PPR, you'll see people start to go a little too running back heavy and some of those wide receivers will drop. That's kind of where I like to pounce and get in on the action. So I'm still a heavy wide receiver guy regardless. But for you, do you find yourself also kind of taking advantage of those moments?
Oh, absolutely. And especially, I think we could count on one hand how many wide receivers, at least that we're in median projections we're looking at, have that type of double-digit touchdown equity. So you can obviously just veer. And yes, we could just start, 2 wide receivers. We only have to start 2 running backs too. So if you go heavy wide receiver and you're like, I'm going to get all the guys that are going to score 10 to 12 touchdowns this year, you can obviously just veer from the consensus and go with wide receivers too.
And Brett, you got to choose where you wanted to pick. I was down at the bottom at 12 because I set the draft up. So everybody says Joe's always at the top. You got to go to the bottom for a change and change things up. You chose 11. Was there a strategy in that, or did you just want to be close to me so we can spend some quality time together.
Well, A, I just want to snipe you as much as possible.
That's a good answer too.
B, I've always kind of approached fantasy in the sense of letting the draft come to me, and letting guys fall, letting guys slip, and then having kind of like a burst of picks every 20 to 25 picks, right, where I can get the value players that I like. So I like to set myself up at or near the turn, the 1-2 turn and the 3-4 turn, because I figure there's gonna be either a running back or a receiver that I like that I can pluck off at the first turn. And then usually year by year, there's going to be like a sweet spot at the 3-4 turn where there's going to be some receiver or running back that I also really, really like. And so I tend to pick towards the back of the first round so that I can consistently try to get value at those turns every 20, 25 picks or so.
There you have it. All right, we're going to kick things off here in just a moment. Just a reminder to everybody, too, look, we acknowledge how lucky we are to do what we do. It's a lot of work, but this is fun, too. Like, we're having a good time, and, the only thing that can make this better is maybe a Miller Lite in my hand, and that's the one thing, I wish we would have more beer with us on the drafts, and one of our sponsors for the show, of course, is Miller Lite. And if you got a Miller Lite in your hand this summer, things are going okay. Maybe you're drafting some football leagues with some friends or just sitting around the pool and the barbecue. I know when the boys are going to join me at my house in a couple weeks, we'll sit around, we'll have some Miller Lites, we'll grill some meat. It's going to be a good time. And we want you to go to MillerLite.com/FantasyPros. Again, MillerLite.com/FantasyPros. Easy to remember for everybody out there. And you can get Miller Lite delivered right to your house. I know what you're saying. What a crazy world we live in. But it's a beautiful thing. Yes, you can also get Miller Lite at the stores, but let's say you're running behind, you're working late, you're doing all these things, and you want to have a little Miller time for yourself. Well, it's a perfect way to do that, and that's ordering Miller Lite ahead of time, or if you got a big event coming, it's one less errand to do at the store. So hit up MillerLite.com/FantasyPros today, put in your order, and you can find it, again, pretty much anywhere, but don't forget, celebrate responsibly, even when you win a mock draft like I'm going to here today. Miller Brewing Company, Wisconsin, in Milwaukee, 96 calories, just 3.2 carbs. That's why Erickson loves it. 12 ounces of pure gold, just like this draft is going to be. We've got 12 pure gold people in this draft. So let's kick things off here. Andrew Erickson, you're at the 1. Typically, this is not where we find you in the draft, so I'm very excited to see where you go. The board is yours, Andrew Erickson. Let's kick things off here for our listeners and our watchers on YouTube. Don't forget to like this video, share, and subscribe to Fantasy Pros because we got better content than anybody else in the planet when it comes to fantasy football. Erickson, you've got the entire board. Don't screw it up. Who are you taking first?
I'm going to take, once the board opens up, to T-minus 10 seconds here, I'm going to take wide receiver Jamar Chase for the Cincinnati Bengals. I think that Chase has an edge over Jefferson in half PPR when I look at touchdowns. When I look at Chase versus Jefferson, I'm looking at, okay, which one of these guys could score 20 receiving touchdowns this year? Chase led all wide receivers in red zone targets per game last year. He was first in expected fantasy points per game in half-point PPR. So when I'm looking at, okay, if there's a quarterback that's going to throw 50 touchdowns this year, is it Joe Burrow or is it Kirk Cousins? I'm going to bet on Joe Burrow. So that's why I like Chase, especially in the half PPR format where touchdowns matter more than Justin Jefferson.
I don't think that's a hot take, what you just said there, but it's really good logic, and I'm kind of with you. You know me, JJ and Chase are right there, number 1A for me. I go back and forth depending on the day, but I keep going back to the same thing you do, which is, hey, Joe Burrow healthy for a whole season, along with Jamar Chase healthy for a full season. Could be a magical year for those two for sure. Christian McCaffrey goes second. Derek Brown then goes ahead, and he goes wide receiver too. So right off the bat, the two guys are talking about running backs and a half-point PPR. Look at this, 2 wide receivers off the board. D-Bro, talk to me. JJ, falling to you. Are you upset that McCaffrey wasn't there?
Nope, not upset at all. I mean, that's why I picked the third pick. I was like, look, I just hope one of Chase or Jefferson falls to me. Let somebody just go ahead and draft CMC. Everybody, I'm sure the YouTube comments are going to be great, knowing that I'm lower on CMC than almost everybody right now. But yeah, look, this is easy for me. It was either going to be Chase or Jefferson. I love Erickson and kind of hate him the fact that he took Chase, so I didn't have to, sit here and talk about wax poetic about how he's my wide receiver 1 as well. But I'll just I'll enjoy the value of Justin Jefferson here.
Yeah, I mean, top 3, top 4 even. I don't think you can go wrong this year. After that, things get a little out there. DVR goes ahead and takes Bijan. Then Austin Eckler goes to Nevada Lightning. Le Murphy, I believe is French, selects Cooper Kupp. Then Nick Chubb going 107. Ooh, I was hoping he would make it to me. my hopes and dreams already are getting thwarted, so that is not good. Great selection there by Moody in this half PPR too. I think Nick Chubb's gonna have a huge year. Error 40 selects Travis Kelce at the 108, so going with that early number 1 tight end who is the clear favorite. All right, we're getting very close to your pick, Brett. We're a few picks away. What's on the board for you? What do you think you're gonna do?
So running back there's still a couple guys that I like here at running back. Crap, the one that I was going to take.
That's why you like the live show, because you get the craps going. That's why I'm the big fan.
I wouldn't hate Saquon here, but at the same time, I'm still not entirely sure what's going on with Saquon and Jacobs with unresolved contract stuff. Like, we know they're both going to get workload, but I feel like if I'm just going strictly safest, I'll probably lean towards Tyreek here. Because A, we know he's going to get a lot of volume. B, we know that Miami, in terms of scoring touchdowns, like we're always looking for red zone appearances per game. Like you can't get red zone touchdowns unless your offense makes it to the red zone. And when Tua was in there, they were a top 8 offense in terms of red zone appearances per game. They were right up there with anybody. And he's going to get the ball in a variety of ways. He'll get carries, he'll get tap passes, he'll get screens, he'll get deep balls. He's the true number 1 there, even though they have 2 technically number 1s with Waddle. Like, you really can't go wrong with Tyreek.
I know you're back on the clock right now. You got about 15 seconds to make a pick, so I'll recap what happened. Jonathan Taylor at 109, then Saquon at 110, despite the quote-unquote holding out potential contract situation there. So far, people still willing to go in with Saquon as a first-round pick. Tyreek, same deal. I mean, you said it as good as you possibly could about all the upside of Tyreek Hill. We'll see what happens with any of the extracurricular stuff that he's been dealing with. I went ahead and took one of each. Sometimes I like to double up. I was very tempted to go CeeDee Lamb as well. Instead, I took A.J. Brown and Ramondre Stevenson. My thought here is you look back at what Stevenson did last year with possibly one of the worst offensive coordinator situations that I've seen in recent memory, if not the worst. I mean, I don't want to go back to the Urban Meyer days, but if you look at what happened in New England last year, that was pretty darn awful. Now, Bill O'Brien, much more capable. You could see Ramondre is really the guy there. He has the pass catching chops. I think he's going to be the focal point of the offense. And A.J. Brown, again, I just don't get what everybody missed last year because this guy was off the charts. Back to you, Brett. You went double up wide receiver. You took Stephon Diggs next at 202, so let's talk about him.
Well, I was going to take Ramondre.
Well, now I feel even better about doing it. See, you said you were going to snipe me. Now the worm has turned, my friend.
Yeah, so I guess I'm kind of getting forced into a little bit of a zero RB thing here. Luckily, there's a lot of running backs in the mid-rounds that I still do like values on, so it's not like I won't get anybody. But I in terms of safe running back picks, unless you're picking in the top half of the first round, it's kind of slim pickings, to be honest.
And one of my favorite things to use here on the Draft Wizard, if you haven't already, again, download it. It's free. Go check it out. The pick predictor, which is great because you can see what the chances are of certain players at certain positions making it back to you. And then you can make those choices of, do I think this group of running backs is going to be there when it comes back to me in the 3-4 turn? If so, then I'm going to go ahead and take player X now. And it's these kind of tools you can sync up to your draft that will really change the way you draft and give you a big advantage over everybody else. And again, these tools, they completely interact with Yahoo, with ESPN, with CBS, any of the sites, Sleeper especially too. Some great stuff here. So after Stephon Diggs goes off the board, Judd decides to go double RBs, Tony Pollard and Saquon together. In 204, Devontae Adams off the board. I have my misgivings about him. We'll talk about him probably later in the show. Error selects CeeDee Lamb, goes all the way at the 205. Then Amon-Ra St. Brown at 206 to Moody. Lemoffe selects Derrick Henry at 207. Good format here for Derrick Henry. Regardless of whatever concern you might have for the carry volume, he's going to get the carries. And maybe when DeAndre Hopkins gets selected, we'll talk about his new home and his new teammate, Derrick Henry. Josh Jacobs goes next at 208, so people still not completely buying in on Jacobs. He's not a first-round pick, as some people have him out there to be. Breece Hall goes right before Derrick Brown, but another Jet ends up on your roster, D-Bro. Let's talk about him.
Yeah, I went Garrett Wilson here. I was bouncing between a few different players. Amon-Ra and Tony Pollard would have been at the top of my queue, but they got wiped out thanks to our lovely Discord users who are
so good.
They're amazing. Which makes these drafts extremely hard because they know who we love. But with Garrett Wilson, look, I know everybody's hot and heavy on him. I'm taking him here because again, if we think that he can get that 29-30% target share, he's going to be really high as far as the first read target for Aaron Rodgers. I'll take the swing here.
Yeah, I'm with you. I'm high on Garrett Wilson also. I mean, I know he's already going as like the 10th wide receiver off the board, but he does have an opportunity to get to that top 5 range. It's in the range of outcomes, as Derek Brown likes to say. Jalen Waddle goes next at 211. Andrew Erickson, you've got the 12th pick in the second round, and then you kick us off on the 3rd at the turn. What are you doing?
Yeah, so I went with running back Travis Etienne, and then I went wide receiver with DK Metcalf. So, look, Etienne, the big concern is, oh no, he can't catch passes. Well, it's less important in half PPR, number one, and I like his touchdown upside. Like, I got question marks about a lot of these Jaguars players in terms of where they're going. The Jaguars, as a whole, have the second highest team average draft position this year. Like, they are expensive to draft, and Etienne is the guy I feel the best about. I think that he has the work at the goal line. He's explosive as a rusher. So even if he does lose out on touches to another running back in the Jacksonville backfield, he's shown that he can rip off massive plays. Like his year last year was on par with what Jonathan Taylor did as a rookie. So I love him in the half PPR setting. And then DK Metcalf, nobody saw more targets in the end zone last year than DK Metcalf did. Like if he hits this year, it's because he's going to score 15 touchdowns. So again, pushing my chips on these wide receivers that are getting these high value targets in the end zone, in the red zone, because you need touchdowns in this scoring format.
Yeah, good points all the way around. Chris Olave goes next at 302. Derek Brown, you went tight end, so now you and Brett are going to have to fight over the RBs later in the draft. I can't wait for that. That's going to be a good time. So, D-Bro, let's talk about Mark Andrews at the 303 selection.
I mean, we're talking about chasing touchdowns here. Mark Andrews never ranked outside the top 7 as far as over the last 3 years in red zone targets amongst tight ends. I think he could still rival Travis Kelce this year. And here's one thing. I'm sidestepping the fight for Darren Waller. That's kind of with this pick what I decided to do. I was like, look, I'm going to be fighting, and I know it. I know Andrew is going to sit here and try to snipe me on Darren Waller. So part of this is me conceding and just, again, zagging when others are zigging, or however that goes. Whatever.
Something
I'm
like
taking
that.
it for another path.
All right. Najee Harris goes at 304. T. Higgins 305. Keenan Allen at 306. Then Aaron Jones, Jahmyr Gibbs, Patrick Mahomes, the first QB off the board at 309. Devonta Smith goes. Brett Kollmann, you're on the clock here at 311. What did you do?
I took Lamar. I have a whole bunch of running backs and receivers in my back pocket, but I feel like we're about to hit the run, and I have a big gap between this turn and the next one, and I just want to make sure that I get my guy before I leave it, or else I'm not going to get who at least that tier of quarterback, in my opinion.
Yeah, and speaking of that tier of quarterback, because I have A.J. Brown, and it's a half PPR, I like the idea of having Jalen Hurts even more. So I'm all in there. Now looking at the running back room again, it's a little tricky out there, but because it's half PPR, I'm going to continue to go with who I think is going to get volume. And still, regardless of the change of offensive coordinator, I still believe that they're going to be very run heavy in Baltimore. So I'm going to take J.K. Dobbins next. So Stevenson, Hurts, Dobbins. I'm going to try to control those touchdowns along with A.J. Brown. That's the core roster I am starting with. And, you know, it's funny, Derek, you mentioned before, I'll let Brett make his selection here about, you know, these people know how we draft. It's because they can use our own cheat sheets against us, which is another feature too, where basically you can choose a, you know, Derek Brown cheat sheet, a hybrid between Derek, myself, and Andrew, however you want to, anybody basically who is registered ranking on FantasyPros, and you can use that in your drafts, in your mock drafts to help you out. And again, the cheat sheets feature is another great one. All right, Brett, I don't know if you felt good or bad about the guys that I just selected here, but I know you already had your quarterback. I don't know if Dobbins was an RB you were looking at, but you ended up going another direction. So let's talk about your selection at 402.
I was debating between 3 different tight ends, and I see the positives and negatives for all of them. You know, between Hawkinson, Pitts, and Kittle. If me picking Kittle is a vote of confidence for Brock Purdy being healthy, it kind of sounds like he will be. If Purdy was not going to be healthy, I probably would have leaned towards Pitts here more so, but I feel like with the style that Brock Purdy plays in terms of the areas of the field that he likes to target, that is the area of the field that George Kittle likes to work. He was a huge red zone target. Like, that was kind of his first look for Purdy in particular. So I feel like as long as Purdy's healthy, Kittle's going to be as productive as he was in the back half of last year. So yeah. I'm kind of leaning into that.
I'm actually a big Hawkinson guy. I think he is the number 2 guy in that offense basically now. I think he kind of showed you that down the stretch. I was shocked, Brett. You know, you're the film guy. You're a football guy. Were you surprised that Hawkinson was able to come in and acclimate himself to that Vikings offense as well as he did? Because that's really typically something that's very difficult to do after you get traded in season, to pick up a playbook and then excel the way he did.
I wasn't super surprised, just because a lot of the concepts that O'Connell was running was the same stuff that he was running before, and they really needed a mid-level threat. They have JJ who can work any area of the field, but obviously you want him to be stretching the field as much as possible because he's so darn good at that. But they didn't have a bunch of guys that I felt could do a lot of the dirty work in the mid-level. And so that's what they brought him in to do, and he was just getting volume and volume and volume. It was third and Hawkinson once he got there, and I do believe that they're going to continue doing that. But that being said, I do feel like Addison is going to take some of those third down targets just because of how good of a separator he is and how dangerous he is as a slot receiver. So I feel like Hawkinson's still going to be as good, but now there's multiple guys they have that can work that intermediate level, not just TJ.
Great stuff, man. All right, after you took Kittle, Joe Mixon at 403, Amari Cooper, Josh Allen, Cam Akers, then Calvin Ridley at 407. It's one of the earlier, I would say, Calvin Ridley selections we've seen. You could feel him starting to, as we get closer and closer to training camp and things seem like they're going in the right direction, you're going to see that value tick up for Calvin Ridley. Debo at 408, then Hawkinson, who we were just talking about, at 409. But Derek Brown already had a tight end, so he doesn't care. Debro, talk about your selection at 410.
Well, I was hoping on this wraparound that I was going to get Dameon Pierce and Cam Akers, but Moody, of course, again, going back to our amazing users, sniped me on that one. But I locked up Dameon Pierce for one of my running back spots. Look, I've talked about Dameon Pierce. I think he has RB1 upside. I love that it's going to be run first offense. And I'm going to go ahead and take, and with kind of getting to this, and of course, I don't want to hop Joe explaining all these picks and stuff like that, but I'm trying to take care of the running back room with these 2 picks. So I went Dameon Pierce and Miles Sanders. I'm not extremely high on Miles Sanders, but I think he's a volume-dependent RB2, and the fall-off for running back is coming. So I did not want to be left out in the cold. I'm sorry, Brett.
No, it's going to get cold out there, but that's okay. Brett's got a blanket or 2, I'm sure. Joe Burrow goes after Derek Brown, selects at 411. Then Andrew Erickson, I love what you did here. Let's talk about your last pick of the 4th and first pick of the 5th round.
Yeah, I definitely wanted Joe Burrow at 412.
I know you did. I know you did.
So I
we
quickly
can't have everything. You get Joe
pivoted.
Pisapia, you don't get Joe Burrow. I'm sorry.
So at my first pick in the 5th round, I did take a quarterback. I took Justin Fields. I think that you should prioritize elite quarterbacks in half PPR settings because the other positions are just scoring less points because they're only scoring half a point for a reception versus a full point. So the elite quarterbacks are now separating themselves even more from the rest of the field and the rest of the roster. So you can just put up scores on a weekly basis that just can't be matched with other players at wide receiver, tight end, etc. So Justin Fields, I think that he's in a better situation than he was last year. He's a mobile quarterback. I think that between round 4, 5, and 6 is the sweet spot for these elite quarterbacks and like that next tier after Hurts, Mahomes, and Josh Allen. And then with wide receiver, I just went with a guy that I think could take a potential leap. This is kind of the middle rounds where I like to take shots on level jumpers at receiver. I like what I saw from Jerry Jeudy last year with Russell Wilson, and Russell Wilson's the quarterback again. So it's not this, I haven't seen it before. Like I've seen Jerry Jeudy be productive with Russell Wilson as his quarterback. So I feel good about that here at the end of round 4.
All right, let's see what the board continues to show itself. We had Kyle Pitts go to Chris. Then, Derek, you went running back again. So let's talk about your selection here at the 503.
Yeah, I had to sit here and lock up the running back room. And the fact that we're just starting 2 guys there at that position, again, I want to chase volume. We're talking about touchdowns. Regardless of whatever we think about the Carolina Panthers offense, Miles Sanders is going to get a ton of volume. And I think we've seen probably his pass game ceiling that has not been there, but in this format, I'm chasing touchdowns, and I think he's going to be the unquestioned red zone guy for the Panthers.
All right, Brett is going to make his pick next. I'm going to let Brett do that. It was no wait time whatsoever. Brett had that one in the chamber, and he let it fly. Before we get to his pick, I just want to remind everybody, if you want a chance to win something fun, a 1-of-1 ultimate custom fantasy championship belt for your league, courtesy of Trophy Smack, well, you can. the number one destination for epic fantasy tournament trophies is Trophy Smack, and you need to subscribe to FantasyPros YouTube. That's real easy. Just click that little bell till it goes ding too. Don't forget that. So subscribe to our channel. Comment below in this video. Joe's got the best draft. Brett's a genius. I love Derek Brown's beard. Whatever you want to say, it's fine. And what we'll do is we'll be announcing a winner right here on the channel at some point in time. Not today, but if you want to throw your hat in the ring, again, courtesy of our good friends over at Trophy Smack, we've got a good opportunity for you here where you can go ahead and win that. So we will alert you if you're the winner. All you have to do, once again, is subscribe and drop a comment below. Easy peasy. Speaking of easy, that last pick for you, Brett, seemed pretty easy. Let's recap: Justin Herbert, James Conner, Christian Watson. I was hoping would make it to me. He did not. 506. Then Trevor Lawrence at 507. Kenneth Walker at 508. Drake London at 509. And then DJ Moore at 510. You selected Alexander Madison. I know a lot of people, very divisive. Some people think it's going to be a really good situation. Some people think it's just kind of vanilla. How do you feel about this selection?
What people need to remember when you're drafting running back is you're not just drafting the running back, you're drafting the offensive line and you're drafting the situation. This was an offense last year that was top 3 in terms of red zone appearances per game at 3.8. They were barely behind Kansas City. They were on par with the Eagles. And this is an offense that is probably still going to get to the red zone just as often. Again, 3.5 is conservative. We're probably looking at 4 red zone appearances per game on average. This is going to be their number one back in terms of red zone touches. So say what you want about Madison as a talent. I think he's okay. Maybe a little bit more than okay as a talent, especially when compared to some of the other best backs in the league. But he's in a situation where he's going to get touches, and we're chasing high-value touches. And I have another running back that's locked and loaded pretty soon. Oh, there we go. On the clock.
I was letting you make your thing. I had my picks ready. I was just waiting for you. I didn't want to cut you off there. So you took Madison. I took Tyler Lockett and Deontay Johnson. I know one of the boys' favorites here, Deontay Johnson. Now, hopefully he'll have a little bit more than 0 touchdowns from last year. We can only hope that one can improve upon that number. I don't think it can get worse, Brett. I really don't, but we shall see. You never know. But look, I think Lockett is being undervalued in the market. I think Deontay Johnson is being undervalued in the market. These guys, to me, are both good, solid wide receiver 2s, and I got both of them to go along with A.J. Brown. You selected David Montgomery. Another guy in this format might feel, look, it's tough to say he's going to step in and do what Jamal Williams did last year from a touchdown standpoint because you got somebody better than DeAndre Swift and Jahmyr Gibbs around, but what are your expectations for Montgomery in this offense in Detroit in that role?
And again, we are drafting for role here. Like you look at Jahmyr Gibbs, even at Alabama, he was not the number one option for them when they were inside the 10-yard line. He didn't even lead Alabama in high-value, low red zone carries. They are drafting him to essentially be a hybrid receiver / running back, which is what they wanted Swift to be, but they couldn't really trust him to be on the field. And so if I look at the touch split between the 20s, you're probably going to get Gibbs a lot of touches in between the 20s. But even if on like best case scenario on one drive, if he gets 4 catches for 40 yards and a half PPR, we're looking at 6 points, right? Well, if we get David Montgomery 2 carries for 8 yards and a touchdown inside the 10, he's getting more points. So the goal is to get points here. I think that Montgomery is going to be fed the ball in the low red zone, just like Jamal Williams was, because at the end of the day, Gibbs, who was, 65th among all FBS running backs in terms of tackles broken per carry, like he's not a tackle breaker. He's excellent in space. He's a great receiver, but I want a guy who's going to get touchdowns, and that's why they brought in Dave Montgomery, is to get touchdowns.
Fantastic stuff, Brett. Again, go subscribe to his YouTube channel, man. Guy does phenomenal breakdowns. Brett Kollmann with a K. All right, Terry McLaurin goes next at 603. Chris Godwin at 604. Brandon Ayuk goes to Error at 605. Then Christian Kirk. I was contemplating him, but I like DJ and Lockett more. Rachaad White, I don't know what the heck to expect out of Rachaad White. I keep waiting for Tampa to sign another running back, and I feel like it's coming at some point. It's going to ruin all the early shares anybody takes of Rachaad White. It's just a gut feeling. Marquise Brown at 608. DeAndre Hopkins at 609, the elephant in the room. We'll talk about that in a second, but Derek Brown taking advantage of a running back that fell maybe a little too far in the 6th round. New Orleans own Alvin Kamara. So, D-Bro, talk to me.
Well, top of my queue was Deontay Johnson and David Montgomery, but Brett took away the Lions touchdown getter, so I'm just gonna pivot, man. Like,
And I did the other thing to you. You got stabbed
you
in the
sure
back
did.
and the front. That's what we tried to do.
I mean, it is what it is, man. I know this is a sharp room. We're gonna have snipes all through the board, but with this pick, I mean, if we already had the news of Alvin Kamara's suspension, 2 games, 4 games, what have you, then he would be going higher than he is right now. And we could say whatever we want about Jamal Williams and Kendre Miller and all that kind of stuff. When Kamara comes back, he's going to be the guy in the passing game, and he's probably also going to be the guy in the red zone. I think Carr's going to check down 2 more this year. I think the Saints, again, they're top 5. They have the most favorable schedule in the NFL right now as far as strength of schedule goes. So Kamara, I think we're also going to see him hop up, man. So I'm going to address, again, with my next pick, I'm going to stay with the running back room.
All right, sticking with the running backs. Isaiah Pacheco goes next at 6'11". Then Andrew Erickson. You didn't have to fight Derek Brown for Darren Waller. You took him at the end of the 6th. And then beginning of the 7th, you took a running back, Khalil Herbert. Let's talk about your picks.
Yeah, Waller, I just think that he's one of the last tight ends that you could easily see make the argument for. I don't think it's even a tough argument to make that he's the number 1 receiver on his team. Like the Kelsey, Mark Andrews, and maybe Dalton Schultz. Like it's a very small tier of tight ends that kind of fit into that criterion, and Waller's one of those guys. So any way I can distance myself from the tight end field of sadness, I think Darren Waller, he's healthy, I think he can be that guy for me. So, and then at running back, I went with Khalil Herbert. It was probably a little bit of a reach. It's what the draft wizard's telling me, and that's what happens when you use the draft wizard. It tells you when you reach on players, and that gives you a percentage of, oh, there's a percentage that this player will be there for your next pick. It told me that Herbert may have been there at my next pick, so maybe it was a slight reach. But the more I think about this Bears backfield, I just want guys that are good. Like I don't know what's going to shake out. I don't know how it's going to shake out, but I've seen Khalil Herbert play football for 2 years, and he's nasty. Like the guy is an explosive machine. So for me, like it reminds me a lot of Ramondre Stevenson when he was going in the 7th, 8th round last year. So if I had to push my chips in on who's going to be this year's Stevenson, it's going to be Khalil Herbert.
Tight end group of sadness. I think that was that 30 Seconds to Mars song. I want to feel like it is. I'm almost positive. After that, Mike Williams goes next at 7:02. Then Derek Brown. Take another stat. I like what you've done here, D. I have to say. You took Alvin Kamara. You took Dalvin Cook. Little uncertainty, taking advantage of the people early on who are unsettled. I gotta say, this is a pretty good look here. You feel strong right now?
Feeling pretty good, man. Considering, I mean, I just feel like we had this whole conversation about going running backs early. I flipped it on its head with this draft. So I filled the 2 wide receiver positions early, and then I'm backfilling running backs, and we're talking about touchdown equity. Again, I talked about Kamara. If Dalvin Cook was already signed, and wherever we want to put him at, Denver, Miami, the Jets, I know betting markets out there, I do not think he goes to the Patriots, so don't burn your money with that. But with the rest of it, I mean, if he was already signed, guys, he would have gone a round or 2 ahead of this. So, yeah, I'm just going to take advantage of the value right now.
Okay, taking advantage of the value with Dalvin Cook. Sounds good to me. I still think Miami's that place for him. Jordan Addison goes at 7:04, then 7:05, Dallas Goedert, Pat Freiermuth, back-to-back tight ends. Jahan Dotson, I was hoping he would make it back to me. He did not, 7:07. Again, this is a little different setup, too. You only have to start the 2 wide receivers, but you can start 2 flex. So Michael Pittman goes afterwards, DeAndre Swift, James Cook goes to Judd, and then Brett Kollmann. Perfect time to take a little pause here because I want to talk about Treylon Burks, your selection here, and the impact of the recently signed DeAndre Hopkins to a 2-year deal with the Tennessee Titans. Typically, it's like the old age situation for wide receivers. We've seen that in the last decade. How do you feel about Burks? How do you feel about Hopkins? How do you feel about the Titans passing game?
All right, I want to give as much value as I can to everybody that's in the stream right now. We've got 600 people in here, so hopefully these 600 people can figure out this Titans offense with us. So I was up till 3 a.m. Watching Titans tape yesterday, pouring through stats, pouring through data. I went back to watch the 2019 Texans where Tim Kelly was coordinating with DeAndre Hopkins and Will Fuller. Back then, DeAndre Hopkins actually played about 40% of his snaps inside in the slot. He was used mostly as either a big slot receiver or as an X receiver on the line of scrimmage outside. Now, what's fascinating about that is the quote-unquote Z receiver, which you would think would be more off the line of scrimmage. that was actually Will Fuller, but they used Fuller also mostly on the line of scrimmage. So they had both these guys on the line of scrimmage, and Fuller was actually the big play threat outside. Hopkins was used mostly as an intermediate threat, a volume threat, a chain mover. They got him working on, deep crosses, all that kind of stuff. And I kind of feel like that year was the year that we started to see Hopkins lose a little bit of deep juice, and it's gotten a little bit more and more with each year.
Mm-hmm.
You go back to last year, he was not separating against press coverage outside. He doesn't have the deep gas anymore. He wasn't winning vertically outside like he used to be. And so I feel like Tim Kelly, knowing what he can do as an inside receiver, as a big slot receiver, is going to use him as a big slot that is still on the line of scrimmage while also having Treylon Burks be outside on the line of scrimmage. For people that are familiar with how alignment works, typically receivers that go deep are going to be on the line of scrimmage. And so I feel like Hopkins and Burks are going to be the two receivers there that get similar yardage totals, but in different ways. Burks could average 15 yards a catch and get 60 catches. Hopkins could average about 10 yards a catch but get 90 catches, still ending up similar types of production there. So Burks is the new Will Fuller. Hopkins is going to be 2019 Hopkins with a little bit less gas. So if you're trying to parse out who do you invest in this Titans offense, it really comes down to what's your format. And I would have to imagine that in non-PPR leagues, people might be looking more towards Burks. In PPR leagues, people might be looking more towards Hopkins because he's going to get more volume in terms of catches.
Fantastic breakdown, Brett Kollmann. Well done, my friend. Excellent. So there you go for the 600 people watching live and the millions watching at home. There's your breakdown of what it could look like in Tennessee. Outstanding. All right, I am back on the board here. I'll let Brett think about his next pick. This is an interesting spot here in the draft. This is kind of that dead area, just a tad, in terms of trying to figure out where we're looking for different pieces of the puzzle. Because it's half-point PPR and because sometimes we go through running backs like Kleenex nowadays, I'm going to go ahead and draft some more of those guys. I am super tempted to take Javonte Williams, but I got to see it first. If this was in mid-August, maybe I've seen a little bit more, and I really do believe he's healthy and he's working towards that. But right now, I ain't there yet. So I'm going to go ahead and take a stab at two more running backs, get some depth there. Antonio Gibson is one of them, and the other one is Rashad Penny. If Rashad Penny stays healthy in this whole Eagles stack that I've created, I control the narrative. I control the horizontal and the vertical of whatever the Eagles offense could be. So I am very excited about that because I think the Eagles are going to win 14 games this year and roll the NFC. Back to you, Brett, for another selection. What do you have?
I'm torn, guys. I'm not going to lie. Like, this is tough. Oh, God. All right. I'm going JSN. I was between JSN and Pickens. I was really struggling there. Not going to lie.
It's close. I understand why.
But I feel like JSN is going to fill a role that they've really desperately tried to fill over the last several years, and that's getting a true slot assassin. They haven't had somebody do that kind of dirty work over the middle because you got Lockett, who's a very good deep threat, and very good outside the numbers. You got DK, who's going to go beat people up and get vertical, and he'll win inside on slants and everything like that. But you really want those two guys going vertical as much as you can, and you want JSN doing all the dirty work underneath. That's what he's there to do. He's going to get a lot of volume.
Evan Ingram just goes next here at 803. He just signed another contract extension there, so they'd franchise him, and they're keeping him around, so that's very interesting there. A lot of people think Evan Ingram could be the guy that loses out. Could be Zay Jones losing out. Chigakonkwo goes next. Little tight end mini run here happening. George Pickens goes to error. He must have been listening in the live stream while drafting about a torn you were, so now he wants to give you immediate regret, Brett. That's the only thing I can imagine. Javonte Williams, Moody was listening to me wax about that. Look, Javonte is one of those guys in early drafts. If you take him and he ends up being healthy and starting week 1, it's a huge win. But if he doesn't play until week 5, totally different set of circumstances. Le Murphy is up next. And I want to remind everybody watching the stream too, look, sometimes you got to go outside. It's not all just fantasy football. Sometimes you should go and have a little bit of fun. And Game Time is a great way to do that. If you don't know what Game Time is, it's the fastest growing ticket app in the United States. So incredible last minute deals you can get for sporting events, for shows, for comedians, anything you're looking for. You want to go to a concert, get out in the fresh air a little bit, have some fun. Go check out Game Time. Again, not just sports, too. It's got a lot of other events on there. Go download the app, And if you use that promo code FantasyPros, you get $20 off your first purchase. That's right, $20 off the first purchase on us. One word, Fantasy Pros, easy to remember. Terms apply. Again, download the Game Time app, enter that promo code Fantasy Pros for the $20 off. Go figure out if you're going to go to an NFL game, if you're going to go to a baseball game, whatever you want to go to. Like I said, it's summertime. Go have some fun. Or even as you get into the fall, Game Time is a great way to get last-minute tickets. So no matter where you live, get out there, have some fun, download the app. Last-minute tickets, lowest prices, guaranteed. That, my friends, is Game Time. Mike Evans goes next, then Brandon Cooks, Kadarius Toney to DVR, and then Derek Brown, one of our favorites, Quentin Johnston at 8:10. Talk to me.
I'm just reading Brett's body language here. Brett, are you mad at me right now?
A little bit.
Yes. All right. So I've been filling up the running back room, and I decided to go back to wide receiver with this one. Again, I know we only had to start 2, but I've waxed poetic on this show numerous times about how I am all in on QJ this year. And really, I've turned to 180. I wasn't that big on him when we were in prospect season and stuff, but looking at the marriage of him and the Chargers, I think it's going to be fantastic. I think they're going to put him inside. I think that he's going to be used out of the slot, and it's going to be yak for days. So, yeah, QJ, all in, baby.
I think you spent a lot of offseason with me, D-Bro, and I feel like I've converted you to the QJ team. It feels really good. It feels good. And it feels good to make Brett mad a little bit, too.
Nice here.
Not going to lie. All right, before we get to Andrew's pick, there was one pick in between. So let's recap that here real quick. So after you took Quentin Johnson, Rashad Bateman goes next. Andrew Erickson doubling up on RBs. Damian Harris was one of the guys I was even considering where I was at the other side of this draft. A.J. Dillon, the other one. So, Andrew, beefing up the RB room, how do you feel about ATN, Herbert, Dillon, and Harris? You got some bodies now.
I definitely got some bodies. Got some big bodies.
Big bodies.
And
big boys.
Running backfield, and I'm looking for red zone backs. Like, if Damian Harris earns that red zone role, they don't run Josh Allen as a battering ram as much. He could score 15 touchdowns. And over the last 2 seasons, we've seen A.J. Dillon carve out a massive role in the red zone for the Packers. Like, they haven't used Aaron Jones in that capacity. Now, Jones is the better receiver. He's still going to have a role in offense, but A.J. Dillon's been really good since he's been in the NFL. And if anything were to happen to Aaron Jones, how high would we be ranking A.J. Dillon? Like, there's him and Derrick Henry that weigh over 240 pounds that are starting running backs in the NFL. So I think getting him in this format this late, I mean, what's the big difference between Dillon this year and last year? Okay, they changed the quarterback, but that's baked into his discounted ADP.
Can't argue with that. Zach Charbonnet goes next to Chris. Then, D-Bro, you took a quarterback who likes to run a little. It's Daniel Jones at 903. How do you feel about that?
Oh, love it. I think Daniel Jones has top 5 upside this year, and I don't think that's crazy to say. We know the rushing is absolutely there. They added the pass game weapons. Darren Waller stays healthy. This is another offense that I'm just buying into this year. I've talked about Darren Waller like crazy, but Daniel Jones, if the passing volume goes up, and they showed us that over the back half of last year that Daboll was willing to ramp that up, Dimes could be a top 5 quarterback this year. And so to get him this late, yeah, it's an easy pick.
He's feeling good, ladies and gentlemen. All right, let's run through the rest of these picks. We'll catch up to Brett. Samaje Perine at 904. Dak Prescott at 905. Brian Robinson at 906. Then David Njoku at 907. And Moody. Errors selects Jamal Williams, Elijah Mitchell, Deshaun Watson. Brett, you took the guy I was going to take. We're even now. Let's talk about Dalton Schultz at the 911 selection.
Yeah, I mean, I already have Kittle, so I'm not like in desperate need for a tight end, but also Kittle just has a shoulder thing that tends to pop up quite frequently. So I'm kind of protecting myself from having nothing at tight end if Kittle goes down. And also, having somebody that's competent to throw in at the bye there as well. Or also just having 2 guys that, depending on certain matchups, I might be able to swap out here and there. So I think giving myself flexibility at a very thin position is a good thing.
That certainly is. I love how you started off with, well, I didn't really need a tight end. I just wanted to stick it to Joe because he doesn't have one yet. So thanks, Brett. I appreciate that from you to me. All right, let's get to my picks here. At the turn, I selected Elijah Moore, who, once again, I keep telling everybody, target's got to go somewhere here in this offense. Donovan Peoples-Jones has been there. It's his last year of the contract. He ain't coming back. They went out there. They made the move for Elijah Moore. He's going to play in the slot. You don't have Kareem Hunt catching passes in the old Cleveland Browns backfield anymore. All of a sudden, Nick Chubb isn't going to become, Todd Gurley catching balls all over the place. It's not going to happen. So Elijah Moore, I think, has a great opportunity to outperform his ADP. I think he's a steal at 9-12. Zay Flowers, I also think is a steal. I love this kid, man. 10-01, I selected him. He's fast. He is tough. Yes, he is shorter. So, yes, I might also be describing some of the traits I like to think about myself as. Short, tough, not fast so much. Not so much that. But Zay Flowers is a guy to me that I look at Rashad Bateman, who can never stay on the field. I look at Odell Beckham coming off surgery, and we don't know what he's going to be after missing all of last season. I think Zay Flowers could be a really good return. And again, I don't need him right away. Only 2 wide receivers started, so I can let him be him and get acclimated to the NFL. Kollmann, you went ahead and selected your quarterback, Tua Tagovailoa at 10-02.
Yeah, this is another one where, again, knowing that my QB1 has a pretty substantial injury history, I decided to double up and take another quarterback with a pretty substantial injury history and hoping they just don't get injured at the same time. But also from a matchup perspective, having 2 guys that I can, look at the defensive matchups from week to week and figure out exactly who I want to start. I know a lot of people in the fantasy space say if you have 2 quarterbacks, you really have none because they hate having to make the decision of who to start every single week. I welcome that challenge. I don't want to just have one clear QB1 and then have like Anthony Richardson as like my stash late. Like I want to have options here because I trust myself to make a good decision week to week.
That's right. We should all try to trust ourselves to make good decisions. I wish it happened more frequently, but we do the best we can. All right, after you took Tua, then you have Jerick McKinnon. Greg Dulcich goes next at 10-04. Gabe Davis off the board. Jeffrey Wilson Jr., Jameson Williams. Debro, you can't have him this draft. Sorry. I almost did it too. I took Zay Flowers instead. I want these guys who are playing. 6 games is a lot for me, even in the 10th round. Tyler Algier, Cortland Sutton. Debro taking another quarterback here, going double here. Daniel Dimes, Mr. Jones, and you going to be big stars. And Geno Smith. Why the back-to-back QBs here, D?
I mean, Brett just talked about it. I have no problems. I want to play matchups with these quarterbacks. And for me, both of these guys are going way too late. Chef Geno, what does he have to do to get in people's good graces? I don't get it. Like, okay, does everybody just think that like last year was a total fluke? They added more weapons. The offensive line should be better this year. Seattle's going to throw the ball. I hate to tell everybody that like they think they're going to be a top 5 rushing rate team. I don't see that happening. They're going to throw the ball. So yeah, Chef Geno here, mixing him with Daniel Jones. Hopefully one of these guys is a top 5 quarterback weekly. And I'm burying the lead here, but also my queue got wiped out. I had Cortland Sutton and Jameson Williams there. Just bing, bing, ready. And then it's gone. Lee Murphy took my guy.
Yeah, that seems a little bit more honest. Thanks for keeping it real with the kids. I'm surprised it wasn't Jaylen Warren who went right after you. I'm sure that made you a little
He
upset
was in the
too.
queue too. Thanks.
All right, Andrew Erickson, you had 2 picks back-to-back. This close out the 10th and start the 11th round. Who'd you select?
Yeah, I took 2 rookie running backs, Devon Achane and Kendre Miller. I love Kendre Miller. I think I've drafted him in every single best ball mock draft that I've done.
Drafted him every show here.
I just liked him a lot at TCU. I don't know. And the Saints liked him even though he couldn't test. I just think that's really telling. Like we see running backs fall in the draft all the time. And when they don't test or don't test well, we see them fall even more. And for the Saints to invest 3rd round draft pick in him, given the Kamara suspension, like I think when down the stretch, Kendre Miller is going to be a monster. So getting him in the double-digit rounds in a hero RB build, which you can also test out on the fantasy wizard yourself. You can do hero RB, you can zero RB, you can set the settings, and it will tell you which guys you should target. I'm sticking to the hero RB approach, and so I'm just pounding running backs, and that includes 2 rookies.
Yeah, Tank Bigsby goes next, so Chris is clearly using the Derek Brown cheat sheet here against him. After taking Jaylen Warren and Tank Bigsby, Chris and Derek, I think, are going to have some words on Discord after this YouTube show's over. All right, Debro, who'd you select at 11:03?
Well, I was going for Jaylen Warren and Tank Bigsby. Apparently not going to get either one of those. But looking at the pick predictor, I know it's a guy that I've not talked about a lot this offseason, but I'm in on Nico Collins. Like, I'm willing to draft him. We all know that I love CJ Stroud, the prospect. I think that Houston, while, again, looking at Dameon Pierce and stuff, I'm in on this offense. I think that CJ Stroud is going to elevate all these players around him. I think that he's going to play extremely well from the hop as a rookie. So, yeah, I'm buying Texans at cheap right now.
I'm buying some of them too, but not that one. That's not the one for me. Not the one for, my guy. Everybody knows.
Oh,
Everybody watches show knows my guys. I just took him in Scott Fishbowl yesterday too. feel pretty strong about it. Kenneth Gainwell goes next. Michael Thomas after that, 11:05 to Nevada Lightning. LaMurphy selects Kirk Cousins. Then Moody selects Alvin Lazard. Juju Smith-Schuster still dealing with a bit of that knee injury. That's really hurt his draft stock early going. I'm fascinated to see if he shows up into camp and looks good and all of a sudden things are going the right direction, what might change there. But for now, that stock is going in the opposite direction. Devin Singletary goes next. Then the 49ers defense. Brett Kollmann, you are on the clock. Oh, yeah, right out of my queue and onto your team. Talk about Roshan Johnson. Damn you.
Good pick.
All right, Brett Kollmann, I love you dearly. You're on mute, so unmute yourself. And actually,
there we go.
I mute.
Hey, at least it wasn't me. It's usually me.
Talk about Roshan Johnson. I don't want to hear it. No, so you go back to mute. No, I'm just kidding. Go ahead. Talk about Roshan.
I knew I couldn't wait till the next turn. It wasn't going to happen. And so even though it's technically early on ADP, it's really not for me. And I want to preface this by saying I love Khalil Herbert. He was one of my top 4 running backs when he was coming out in the draft. I love Khalil Herbert. The type of offense that they're building in Chicago favors Roshan. They were 31% inside zone last year, especially because they spend so much time in the gun with Justin Fields. That is the 6th highest percentage of inside zone in the entire NFL. They're going to lean even more into that this year, in my opinion, and that is Roshan Johnson all day. He works between the tackles on inside zone, and especially on duo. They run that half the time. Khalil Herbert is more productive on outside zone, and I don't see them being an outside zone heavy team here. I think if you look at the regime, they drafted Roshan specifically for the style of offense they want to run. I think sooner rather than later, he will be the dude in Chicago. That's just my gut feeling on it.
Yeah, it's my gut feeling too, Brett. So I'm not too happy with you. I was all set up. I was going back-to-back Bears. Cole Kmet, boom. Roshan Johnson, boom. I agree 100% with everything you just said, everybody. Look, Roshan's that guy when you're looking for some RB depth and upside late. He's the guy to target, man. People will be talking more about him if he wasn't sitting behind Bijan Robinson last year at Texas. I can tell you that. And when he got some moments, he had a lot of moments. So he was very good. So this is the part of the draft where I start taking shots at chief wide receivers. Everybody knows that about me. So the first one here, Sky Moore. So there's that first salvo. The dart is thrown. Brett, you went with a guy in Cleveland here, Jerome Ford. Do you think he is going to be a guy where some of these extra targets might find their way to him?
I do believe that he will get more opportunities right now than people are thinking. Again, he was a quote unquote later round running back in Cleveland, but he was another guy similar to Khalil Herbert who went in the 5th round. Like I had Ford as my 4th rated running back coming out, just like I had Herbert as my 4th rated running back coming out. I was extremely high on him. I know the Browns are extremely high on him. When I talked to my buddy that's in that building, he's told me for over a year now that they love everything they see. He was just in a very loaded backfield and couldn't really get opportunities. Now he will. And not that I'm hoping that Nick Chubb gets injured, but if Nick Chubb gets injured, I think that Ford is an extremely high upside handcuff that I would really love to have.
Well, don't you ever say anything bad about Nick Chubb getting hurt. Not around here. I'm the president of the Chubb Club. Everybody knows that in these parts. Another interesting selection there from Brett. Brett's giving you the blueprint, everybody, about some real NFL stuff and how it affects your fantasy teams. And this is why I love having him on the show, because to me, this is real. You know, we can do all the data, all the analytics. Sometimes you got to go deeper. You got to understand systems. You got to understand the coaches, understand what's going on the field itself. It's that combination that really gets you to the top of the mountain. And that's why you should like this video, share, subscribe to Fantasy Pros YouTube channel, and don't forget to, we're giving away fun stuff. You got a chance to win the ultimate custom fantasy championship belt for your league, courtesy of Trophy Smack, the #1 destination for epic fantasy tournament trophies. So again, subscribe, click the little bell till it goes ding for notifications right now. Comment below. That's it. That's all you have to do. And we'll reach out to you, but you can't get your hat in the ring unless you comment and subscribe to the channel. So great stuff there from Brett. Recapping some more picks here as we go through. By the way, breaking news. I just saw Saquon Barkley and the Giants did not reach their agreement by the 4 p.m. deadline. So he will play on the franchise tag if he plays. So here we go. The staring match, the chicken has begun in New York between Saquon
What about
and
the Jacobs? The Jacobs get a deal?
I haven't seen it yet. How many balls? I'm talking about Miller Lite. I'm giving away belts and tickets, and there's Andrew Erickson. I'm drafting stuff. you know? And what
about Tony
Erickson's like,
Pollard?
no,
I
no.
need the updates.
Why don't you go to Fantasy Pros news desk and see if those are
Joe
things while you're
Schefter.
sitting there doing nothing, Andrew?
I'm on the clock.
You're on the clock. I'll put you on the clock. All right, let's get to the rest of the picks here. After Jerome Ford, Raheem Mostert, Aaron Rodgers, Deonta Foreman, Tyler Boyd, Samir White, Anthony Richardson goes to Nevada Lightning. Look at Nevada going out there. Let's go, baby. Love that pick at 1208. Jacoby Myers at 1209. Debro taking a tight end here. Another tight end, Gerald Everett at 1210. So real quick, give me the 2 cents on Gerald Everett.
Investing in a top 3 offense this year, and I know I already have Mark Andrews, but this late, I'm just going to go for depth. As well as I had Jacoby Myers that I was actually looking at right there. He went. C'est la vie. So at this point of the draft, I mean, we're really taking shots on upside. I think Everett has it, and I'm going to take another shot on upside this late.
I could tell you this. I almost took Jacoby Myers where I was. I want to try one more time with the Chiefs wide receivers. I don't know. It's all going to be terrible. I know it. It's going to be Rashee Rice. I'll probably take him later in the draft too. After Gerald Everett, Darnell Mooney. Okay, Andrew, now you could talk about all your picks that you needed all that time to make. What'd you do?
I took Gus Edwards because Gerald Everett was no longer on the board. So I was very sad.
Was there another news item on Gus Edwards?
I actually wanted Darnell Mooney too, and he also got taken right before me. So I did get sniped on both my picks. But yeah, Gus Edwards, I think that it's pretty clear he's like the direct handcuff to J.K. Dobbins, who has also talked about like wanting a new contract. So we'll see how that goes. And Dobbins hasn't been the epitome of health the last 2 years. So Gus Edwards has been efficient. They fed him. They paid him. So maybe he has a role. In round 12, I think that's fine value for Gus Edwards, especially in half PPR. We've seen him have a red zone role on that Ravens offense that a lot of us are excited about. And then Mike Gesicki, I think he's this year's Evan Ingram. Look, he's been a tight end 1 in 3 different seasons. He was tight end 20 last year. Now he's going as the tight end 23. I can't possibly see him being used less than he was in Miami last year, where he was totally put in a horrible position as a receiving tight end that works out of the slot. They didn't use him in that any way, shape, or form. They used Durham Smythe more than they used Mike Gesicki at times last year. So I think it's and Hopkins can't be a Patriot. So Mike Gesicki, he's safe.
Yeah, well, a little safer now after that signing. Tyler Higbee goes next in that little back-end tight end run. I've been taking a lot of Gesicki late in drafts, too. I took him in Fishbowl as well last week. Clyde Edwards-Helaire to you, Derek Brown. So this is, again, now this part in the draft where you take shots on Chiefs, seeing what happens, right?
Oh, absolutely. And I think the Edwards-Helaire runway is not hard for me to sit here and, parse out to people. He's one injury away from having either the pass game role or the early down role for the Kansas City offense. And we know Pacheco is banged up right now. Jerick McKinnon is not getting any younger, so it's just a matter of outs. So if you're doing drafts this early, yeah, Clyde Edwards-Helaire is a player that people, and I get that people are been burned, they're out, blah, 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 blah. He's a guy you need to be considering at the later part of your drafts.
I'm still mad about Roshan Johnson. I'm still trying to come down from that. Chuba Hubbard goes next. Jawan Johnson, Ezekiel Elliott goes next. Then Donovan Peoples-Jones, Rashid Shaheed. Dallas Cowboys defense goes next. Then Judd Judd selects Rondell Moore. Brett, the ball's back to you. It's in your court. What are you shooting?
So I want people that are in the stream right now to remember 3 numbers. 989. That is a passing concept that you're going to see a lot in Indianapolis this year. It's called 989 because you got a 9 route, and in the middle there's a skinny post or an 8 that's really a middle read route. Shane Steichen, if you go back to his work with the Chargers early in Justin Herbert, they threw that all the time. You look at his work with Jalen Hurts last year, they threw that all the time. Like, that was where A.J. Brown alone on that play call got like 380 yards just on that play. And Alec Pierce is going to be the beneficiary of those rampant 989 calls in Indianapolis this year. Anthony Richardson obviously has a hose, and he believes in simplicity through aggression because, believe it or not, regardless of what coverage is called on defense, everything turns into man coverage when it's 30 yards down the field. So if you have somebody that can drop bombs like that and you have a 6'3 receiver with 4.4 speed and a 40-inch vertical, you go use it. And so Alec Pierce is going to be the guy that benefits from that simplicity through aggression in Indianapolis' offense. I'm taking him this late because I think his upside legitimately is 1,000 yards. I think he can get there.
Hey, man, look, it's a great upside late pick, especially if everything breaks right with Anthony Richardson. I just worry about, can they even get to 3,000 yards in this passing game potentially in this first year of him? Look, I know the measurables are off the chart. I get that. And I'm super excited for Anthony Richardson. Do not get me wrong. I'm just a little skeptical about how much Pittman or Pierce or any of these guys can be fantasy reliable. I hope the script you're writing, Brett, is true. I really do, because I think it would be a great story and fun for the NFL. I took the Georgia Bulldogs defense. I'm sorry, the Philadelphia Eagles defense here with my last pick of the 13th round. Then I selected Dalton Kincaid again. Little upside at tight end, because tight end got away from me a little bit here because Brett didn't need one. He took Dalton Schultz anyway. So I took Cole Kmet earlier, but Dalton Kincaid, again, if he can get up to speed. Remember, Buffalo moved up in the draft to get him. Follow the money, folks. Always follow the money. Dalton Kincaid, I think, is going to work a lot more than people realize, so I'm not afraid. I'm hoping he gets to make some inroads early as we get into the season, not later, but I don't have to have him do it early because I still got Cole Kmet. Now, Brett, you took another running back here from New England right after this Pierre Strong, guy who's got a lot of speed. Now, do you think he can fit that other end of this offense that we've seen for decades now, whether it be the old Kevin Falk days or, moving into some of the later years that we've seen some other running backs fill this pass catching role? Do you think Pierre Strong could do that?
I 100% do. And I know they drafted him thinking that he's going to be the new James White with even more gas, somebody where, if we want to call a toss play, like he can get the edge and be, like what we saw with South Dakota State. And I remember watching a lot of South Dakota State tape when he was coming out. Like he was one of the best outside zone runners in the entire class. Like I had a monster grade on him coming out. And oh, by the way, he's a good receiver too. So I think he's going to be the James White role, but maybe even more, and kind of being also a breather back for Ramondre. I think his upside is enormous. Obviously, he's a Patriots running back, so you never fully trust it. But that's why he's going as late as he is, right? It's because he's a Patriots running back. If he was in any other team where we have more faith in how they use their guys, he'd be going a lot higher just on talent.
Absolutely. All right, Zay Jones goes next, DJ Shark, then followed by Buffalo Bills defense, Wan'Dale Robinson, Cordell Patterson, the Pats defense, Odell Beckham, Derek Brown. You're on the clock for 14-10. What do you have?
I'm so pissed off at Brett right now. I want to Pierre Strong so much. He was to harken back. He was my RB3 of that class before Bill stepped on my heart. Okay, so love that pick. I'm going to get ahead of the curve here. I've talked about this defense before, but their opening schedule is ridiculous. I'm taking the Saints defense here, and for everybody that's saying, okay, why did you just do this? I'm just going to lay out their first 6 week schedule. They play the Titans, the Panthers, the Packers, the Buccaneers, and then they get the Patriots and the Texans. Yeah, I'm not worried about streaming defenses for the first month and a half of the season. I'm locked in.
Tony Pollard, by the way, Andrew, I'll update you, did not reach a long-term extension before the deadline also. I'm still waiting for any Josh Jacobs news. If I get it, I'll send it to you. Andrew Erickson, you're going to select next. The Jets defense goes off the board. You select the Baltimore Ravens defense, and then in the 15th round to start us off, what are you taking here?
So I took the Baltimore Ravens defense. They're currently 9.5-point favorites against the Texans. Rookie quarterback. Place your bets now, folks. Baltimore Ravens. They're going to cover the spread. And then Justin Tucker, best kicker in fantasy. I figured there's really just a bunch of jabronis here. I'll take a late round pick later, and I'll just get the best kicker. So that's my strategy.
There you go. Rashee Rice goes off the board for Chris, so maybe he's got my cheat sheet in there as well. I just know whoever I select is always going to be wrong for the Chiefs situation. That's why I'm trying to, in every draft, get one or two, so maybe I'll be right eventually about it. Derek Brown, here's a name we don't see very often. Eric Gray. Is this about the Saquon news? Is that why you're doing this?
I mean, you have the news ticker going here, Joe. I mean, you're updating us. There's no Saquon deal.
Doing a lot of things.
Why not throw some Eric Gray into the mix here, baby? If there's a backup and the handcuff we want out of the Giants, it's not Matt Breida, baby. I will go with Eric Gray. So, yeah, I'll lean into the news cycle here.
Okay, then you have Eric Gray going, Tyler Bass, Evan McPherson. So the kicker run early. I always wait to the last round, but I get the Justin Tucker and I get the Evan McPherson. Like that I understand. Len Murphy, and we're doing kickers here today because people said, hey, how can we never draft a kicker? Well, here you go. Now you can't say we never draft kickers.
Kicker takes.
They keep telling me they're people too. Okay, fine. Jake Elliott goes next. Brett, you got 2 more picks left here. I know I'm behind you there, so if you don't want to divulge, it's fine. I respect that. I understand. But is there anything here that you have your eye on? Obviously, you have to take a kicker in the 15th or 16th round. But besides that, is there a value on the board that intrigues you?
Sort of. The defense is kind of dried up, at least in terms of like elite early kind of matchups here. And so if I'm taking a defense at this point, which I will, it's going to be, okay, who do I think is going to give me turnovers? That's what we're looking for here. We're looking for turnover potential. We're looking at defensive touchdown potential. Somebody who not only can survive the early slate of games, but might actually thrive in the early slate of games. And I'm just waiting for Judd to do his pick here, and then I can reveal mine because I have a defense queued up that I do think has that potential because the talent level on said defense is absolutely insane.
It's a great tease. You've done a great job. Denver Broncos went. Harrison Butker went. Carlson went. Judd's got 3 seconds.
There we go.
Romeo Dobbs. So go ahead, Brett. Take your defense. And you did. It's the Miami Dolphins. And I agree for whatever that's worth. Good situation there. Good value. If you're looking for late defenses, I feel like last couple of years, New England kind of slips by in the later rounds. Miami's another one last year that showed out pretty well. I'd agree.
And they only got better. Obviously they added Ramsey, so their secondary is absolutely stacked with Xavier, Javon Holland. Kader Kohu had a really nice year. Their pass rush is absolutely insane, led by Jalen Phillips and Christian Wilkins. Their linebacking core with David Long is really good. You still got Bradley Chubb. I'm looking for sacks. I'm looking for potential turnovers and defensive touchdowns. I think that even though their first matchup against the Chargers is going to be an absolute war, I don't think that they're going to get shelled. I think it's going to be a pretty close game.
Well, early in the year, too, a lot of teams are still working the kinks out. So I took Jared Goff, a little backup at the quarterback position there. For what it's worth, if they didn't have to take a kicker here, I would have taken John Mechie. Just want everybody to know, yes, I would have, but I ran out of spots here, unfortunately. So Koo goes next to me. You took McManus, so all the rest of the kickers will go, and we'll get the recap of the boards, what everybody's grade was, and we can let everybody know. And, of course, we're using Draft Wizard here. If you haven't, make sure you go ahead and download it for free. We've got amazing tools here to help you embarrass all your friends and family and your enemies in your fantasy league. And that's really what it's all about at the end of the day, isn't it? The winning the money is nice. Winning the championship is nice, but it's the elitism. That's really what fantasy football is really all about at the end of the day. Rodrigo Blankenship, look at that. Old Goggles himself going. That, Judd just did that for fun. Judd's like, I want the guy with the goofy goggles. That's what I want. John Mechie wants the error. Thank you, John. Don't let that man go undrafted. Some other guys still on the board as well that did not get drafted yet. I saw KJ Osborne was still available. Adam Thielen, Michael Gallup did not get drafted in this draft so far. Van Jefferson, MVS, some names in the wide receiving group. On the running back side of things, really not too many guys. No Leonard Fournette, no Kareem Hunt, not too surprising there. As far as the quarterbacks that did not get drafted so far, Russell Wilson, Matthew Stafford, Derek Carr. But again, single quarterback format, that's what we probably imagined it would be. Andrew, when it comes to late defenses, you took Baltimore, still probably more in that upper echelon. Is there a late defense that you like?
I like the Saints. They're usually lower in ECR. So
they are.
Debro was really tuned in because the schedule is exactly
Yeah.
why you want to draft them. And that's just really what I look at. Who's playing a soft matchup in week one and then kind of roll that defense week over week. Because you talk about the Patriots. Do you want to start the Patriots against the Eagles in week one, Joe? Do you?
No, I don't. I don't.
I don't.
I'm going to start all my Eagles, though, against them. Fly, Eagles, fly. Let's go. Derek Brown's
I'm good with that. I'll start the Patriots against the Eagles week one. I'm good with that.
Yeah, yep. Honestly, the Patriots defense are always going to have a plan. You know that. They're always going to be prepared. And they create turnovers to the point, too, where we were talking earlier. Brett said the same thing I look for. I'm looking for sacks. I'm looking for, if you get to the quarterback, it leads to turnovers. Turnovers lead to fantasy points. That's what you're looking for. I got a B, 85 out of 100. Not too bad from the old Draft Wizard. Jalen Hurts, Ramondre Stevenson, J.K. Dobbins, A.J. Brown, Tyler Lockett, then Cole Kmet, Deontay Johnson, Antonio Gibson. I got the Eagles defense. Then Koo is my kicker. The bench, I love the bench here. Rashad Penny, Elijah Moore, Jared Goff, Zay Flowers, Sky Moore, and Dalton Kincaid. I got 2 guys named Moore. Very excited about that. Always like to have themes on my team. Let's see who won the draft, though. It was not me. It was not Andrew Erickson. It was not Derek Brown. Brett, it was not you. You were all the way at the bottom, but that's okay. We love you.
Yeah, it gave me an F.
We'll get to that in a second. But it is summer. Maybe we're in school. I don't know. DVR 66. Congratulations. You are the winner. Again, if you want to get involved in this, fantasypros.com/chat. Go premium. You could join Discord for free, but premium people get access to more channels and access to fun events like this where you can draft against us. Don't worry. Don't take it too hard, Brett, because there's so many times we do these. And you know what? You stick to your guns. You stick to your analysis. I'm mad because Derek Brown finished third. Moody was second. Judd was fourth. I was fifth. As long as I'm ahead of Andrew Erickson at 6, I'm happy. That works for me. The Expert Opinions is a great tab. It says that Derek Brown and me, Joey P, like my draft. Also, Matt Harmon liked my draft. So that's a big one for me. I feel really good about that. Derek Brown actually liked my draft more than any other expert. I love you, D. You are my favorite. Brett Kollmann. Let's dig into this F here a little bit, and let's find out, was there anybody expert-wise that liked your draft, that supported and loved you and felt needed?
Ooh, let me look here.
So, if you click the little tab on Expert Opinions, it'll give you who gave you a thumbs up and who gave you a thumbs down. Debro, while he's looking at that, how about for you? Who liked your draft? Who hated your draft?
Jacob Gibbs, sharp guy over at Sportsline. Love his work. He gave me let me see, what is it? A 95. So I'll take that to the bank. Apparently, our own Sam Hoppin did not like it. He gave me a 68. So, Sam, we need to have a talk off
Sounds
air
like
here,
Slack
okay?
messages are going to be going
Slack
back and forth
messages
this
are coming,
afternoon.
buddy.
Yeah.
I don't think anybody liked mine.
You're the first person to break the wizard. You got somebody that all thumbs down for Brett. But that's okay, Brett. There's still premium tools that can help you get better at your draft. But
no, if I'm going to go down swinging, I'm going to use my own bat.
Always. Oh, I love that. That is good
nice
stuff right there. Let's get to you, Andrew Erickson. What grade did you receive?
I got a B-, and Andrew Erickson loved my draft, so that's all I really care about.
I love you some you. All right, Andrew, let's talk about your team. Justin Fields at the quarterback spot, ATN Harris. Then you have Jamar Chase, Jerry Jeudy, Darren Waller, DK Metcalf. That's sexy. You've got A.J. Dillon, the Ravens D, Justin Tucker, then Khalil Herbert, Kendre Miller, Devon A. Chain, Mike Gesicki, Gus Edwards, Leonard Fournette. Your thoughts and feelings about this draft, Erickson?
I mean, I like the 2 strong wide receivers to start because I won't have to start 2 wide receivers. So, Chase and Metcalf are going to be locked and loaded, and then I can rotate, this Bears backfield. If Herbert, if he emerges as the guy, which I feel less strong about after Coleman's great breakdown of it, and I'm disappointed I reached on him too. So that's unfortunate for me. But, if it's Herbert that emerges, if Dillon has a bigger role, Damian Harris, if he becomes the red zone back. So I have a lot of options with all the running backs that I took that I can then fill in at my running back slots and in my 2 flex spots. So I like the way I built it. Again, I'm following a traditional hero RB approach because I think ETN is the guy that I'll have locked and loaded in that 1 RB1 spot. And I was able to get an elite tight end and elite quarterback. So with Fields and Darren Waller. So overall, I'm pleased with the draft.
Brett Kollmann, Lamar Jackson, David Montgomery, Alexander Madison, but then Tyreek Hill and Stephon Diggs. I don't care what the wizard says.
I like this team.
I like this team too. George Kittle, Jackson Smith and Jigba, Treylon Burks, then Miami Dolphins D, McManus, Tua, Dalton Schultz, Roschon Johnson, Pierce Strong, and Jerome Ford. I can only assume those last couple picks because you dug deep here. And these are some of the names I feel like, Brett, every year we get to the waiver wire show in week 1 and 2. And these are the names that are like the most popular guys. You're just drafting them, right?
Yeah, and I focus so much on nailing the draft because I always feel like if I have to do so much work in season, constantly cycling players and using up my fab, it means that I didn't do enough work to prepare for the draft, right? And I do so much work on these guys during draft season when I'm covering and I'm doing, so much tape study and everything when they're coming out of college. I usually have a pretty good feel of what they were, or rather what they are. And I feel like that gives me an advantage in terms of drafting rookies and also drafting guys up until their 2nd, 3rd year in the league. And like Pierre Strong, he was on my radar early because I got to watch him up and close at Shrine Bowl in January before people even knew who he was, right? And then I hit up my buddy and was like, can you get me South Dakota State all 22? And then he did. And I've watched him 8 games. And I'm like, oh my God, this guy's really good. Next thing you know, he's going to the Patriots. So I've just like Debro, I've been very familiar with Strong for so long that I know what's in there. I'm just waiting for him to get the opportunity, and I really don't want to have to fight everybody else in the waiver wire for that
It's great.
opportunity.
Yep.
It's great. And look, this is why you listen to the Dynasty Pod here. This is why you got to be ahead of the game, because you got to get every advantage you can, not just in Dynasty leagues. You need to know these college football players. And if you don't have enough time, to watch the games, and you got to be listening to pods like that with Bogman and Fitz. Again, it's on our feed right here on the YouTube channel too. Derek Brown, let's talk about your team. Geno Smith. It put Geno, not Danny Dimes, at starting quarterback. Maybe that's a discussion you have to have.
Well,
Damian Pierce, Dalvin Cook, Justin Jefferson, Garrett Wilson. Man, do I love that pairing. Mark Andrews. We have Miles Sanders, Alvin Kamara. The Saints, Myers, Quentin Johnston, Daniel Jones, Gerald Everett, Nico Collins, Clyde Edwards-Helaire, and Eric Gray. Your thoughts, D?
I love this team. If I have a team in redraft that comes out like this, I'm going to be extremely happy. I think that, we can talk about all we want about elite quarterbacks. There are quarterbacks that I think that can get close enough, like Daniel Jones, Chef Geno, that where late round quarterback is still viable. And for me, I felt really good about this one, man. I just felt like I got good values on Alvin Kamara and Dalvin Cook. If they were already signed, they would not have gone where they were. And as well as 2 bookend wide receivers that, outside of bye weeks, I'm never taking Garrett Wilson and Justin Jefferson out of my lineups, and an elite tight end. Yeah, I'm ready to just strip down and run naked through the streets. I love this team.
Well, we better end the stream before that happens. Let's just to recap, too, congratulations to DVR for winning the draft. You win my love and respect. That's what you get here. But again, everybody could possibly win if you drop a comment below here. Subscribe to the channel. Tell us who you thought won the draft. What pitch did you like? What picks did you not like? And you could win the ultimate trophy smack experience belt. It's a beautiful thing. Also, don't forget, you could also get Miller Lite delivered to your house. Go right now. Run. Don't walk. Make sure you get the Miller Lite to your house and then walk back slowly. That's what you want to do. But also, because it's glass and you don't want it to shatter, MillerLite.com/FantasyPros. You don't even have to walk anywhere. You just call and they deliver it right to your house. You go online. Boom, it's done. Again, MillerLite.com/FantasyPros. You can get Miller Lite right to your home for your next barbecue, party, or draft. Fantasy football season is beer season, and it's also the season to go out and have some fun. You can do that with Game Time, so download the app and redeem that code FantasyPros for $20 off your first ticket order. Again, it's a great way to get tickets for summer events, for comedy shows, for sporting events, for concerts, you name it. Game Time has got it. So download the app. Again, use that promo code FantasyPros always. I want to thank our guest, especially for joining us, the master of the film room, Brett Kollmann. Follow him on Twitter at Brett Kollmann, KOLLMANN. I feel like old Jeff Jarrett from the old days, kind of giving that handle there. Also, check out his YouTube channel. If you're a football nerd, or if you want to just get better at football understanding and analysis, it is a great channel. It's fantastic. Brett, thank you so much for your time. We appreciate having you on today. D-Bro, Erickson, I'll see you in just a couple of weeks in person again. Can't wait for that. And thank you, all of you, for joining us. Don't forget to like this video, share, and subscribe to Fantasy Pros. Click that little bell till it goes ding. And that'll do it for us. But the story of the game goes on. For the boys, I'm Joey P.